Everyone dreams about the jackpot, that one big break, the moment everything changes. They picture the lights, the applause, the life they've been waiting for. But here's the truth. Most people wouldn't even know what to do with it if it showed up in their lap. They're too busy daydreaming to prepare, too focused on wanting it to actually be ready for it. And when it comes, they freeze, they fumble, they let it slip away. Because the jackpot isn't just about luck. It's about being the kind of person who can hold on to it once it's in your hands. Everyone loves to talk about love, like it's some magical lottery ticket floating through the air, just waiting for them to grab it. They sit around imagining the day it lands in their lap, convinced that's when everything will finally change. But here's the part no one likes to think about. What if it lands and you don't even know what to do with it? What if you've been so focused on wanting it that you never learned how to keep it? Because luck, it's slippery. It doesn't wait for you to figure it out. It shows up, it flashes that big, shiny smile, and if you're not ready, it walks right out the door before you can even say hello. People act like luck is this permanent thing, as if once they have it, it's theirs forever. But luck is just an opening, a crack in the wall, a door left slightly ajar. And if you've got no plan, no skills, no mindset to step through it, you'll watch it close right in your face. That's why preparation isn't optional. It's the only thing that matters. You can't control when luck comes, but you can control whether or not you're ready when it does. And the sad truth, most people aren't. They want the jackpot without learning how to play the game. They want the crown without knowing how to carry the weight. See, being ready isn't glamorous. It's not the part people post about. It's the hours no one sees, the practice, the failures, the learning, the boring stuff that doesn't get applause. And that's why they skip it. They think luck will be so powerful. It'll make up for all the work they avoided. But luck doesn't replace preparation. It exposes the lack of it. You win something big, and suddenly there's pressure, responsibility, decisions to make fast. And if you've never trained yourself for those moments, you'll crumble. You'll fumble the ball because you never learned how to hold it in the first place. It's funny, in a twisted way, how people pray for a life-changing moment but sabotage themselves long before it ever arrives. They imagine the spotlight, but never think about what comes after. And that's the cruel truth about luck. It's not kind. It's not patient. It doesn't give you time to catch up. When it hits hard, and you either rise to meet it or you get crushed under the weight of it. And no, that's not luck being unfair. That's just life testing. Whether you were ready or not, the jackpot isn't about the win. It's about the ability to keep winning once you've got it. And that requires a kind of readiness that most people aren't willing to build. It means sharpening your skills long before anyone's watching. It means knowing your own weaknesses so you're not blindsided. It means practicing the decisions you'll have to make when the stakes are high. So you don't freeze when the moment comes, because the moment will come, and it will not wait for you to get ready. It will demand that you already are. You can spot the ones who are ready. They don't panic when the opportunity hits. They move. They don't waste time celebrating before they've secured it. They treat luck like fuel, not a trophy. And because of that, they keep it. While everyone else is standing around wondering how it slipped away. They're too busy making it multiply. They understood something the rest didn't. Luck doesn't make you ready. Readiness makes luck work for you. And the cruel little joke in all this: the ones who prepare the most are often the ones who need luck the least. They've built themselves so strong, so capable, that even without the jackpot, they'd find a way to win. Which is exactly why, when luck does come their way, it sticks. Because they weren't just hoping for it. They were built for it. People think big opportunities are like a gift. You just unwrap them and your life magically changes. But the truth, they're more like a test, a silent, ruthless exam you didn't know you were taking. They show up without warning, without mercy, and they don't care about what you say you want. They care about what you've been building in the dark. When the moment hits, it doesn't check your dreams. It checks your readiness. It measures your ability to act, to adapt, to handle the weight without collapsing under it. And that's where most people fail, not because the opportunity wasn't there, but because they weren't built to carry it. They think wanting it badly is enough. They imagine that hunger will make up for the lack of skill, the lack of discipline, the lack of a plan. But an opportunity doesn't bend to your desire. It bends to your capacity. It wants to know if you can take it, shape it, and make it last. And here's the ugly truth. Wanting without preparation is nothing but self-sabotage. It's like getting handed $1 million without knowing how to keep a single cent from slipping through your fingers. The jackpot isn't about the win itself. It's about the structure you have in place to protect its seed. A real opportunity doesn't arrive looking like a perfect little package. It's messy, chaotic, unpredictable. It demands decisions in seconds, not days. It demands courage when you're scared, clarity when you're overwhelmed. And if you haven't been training for that pressure, it'll chew you up. People think, when it comes, I'll figure it out. No, you won't. The moment will be too fast, too sharp. You won't rise to the occasion. You'll fall to the level of your preparation. And if that level is low, the opportunity turns from a blessing into a burden faster than you can blink. This is why so many people lose the very thing they prayed for. They mistake the chance for the guarantee. They think the door opening means it'll stay open forever. But doors close. Chances vanish if you're not ready to walk through and own it immediately. It doesn't matter how badly you wanted it. It will belong to someone else before you even realize it's gone. Because opportunity doesn't wait for you to be comfortable. It waits for no one at all. And here's the sick little twist. Sometimes the biggest opportunity you'll ever get won't even look like one. It'll be disguised as a problem, a risk, something that feels inconvenient or dangerous. The only way you recognize it for what it is if you've trained your eyes, your mind, your instincts to see it. Most people won't. They'll hesitate. They'll doubt. They'll pass it up because it didn't fit their fantasy of what luck should look like. And in doing so, they'll fail the test before they even take it. Readiness isn't just about skill. It's about resilience, the ability to keep moving when the opportunity comes with chaos attached. Because here's the thing, big chances rarely arrive clean. They're messy. They'll test your patience, your endurance, your ability to pivot. And if you're soft, if you've only prepared for the perfect scenario, you'll crumble the moment reality shows its teeth. The opportunity isn't asking you if you want it. It's asking if you can survive. And the cruel irony. The ones who handle the biggest opportunities aren't always the most talented. They're the ones who treated every small chance like it was the big one. They practiced under low stakes so they could execute under high ones. They built habits, systems, and mental armor long before the spotlight found them. So when it did, they didn't freeze. They didn't flinch. They moved like they'd been there before, even if they hadn't. And in a way, they had, because they'd been preparing for it every single day. Long before it arrived, preparation isn't just a safety net. It's the weapon that turns a lucky break into something permanent. Without it, luck is just a spark, bright for a second, gone the next. People love to talk about chance, destiny, fate. They think the jackpot is all about being at the right place at the right time. But here's the part no one likes to hear. You can stand in the right place at the perfect moment and still walk away with empty hands if you don't know what to do when it hits you. Because opportunity isn't polite. It doesn't give you time to warm up. It expects you to swing the moment the pitch is thrown. When you're prepared, you don't just take what's given, you multiply it. You see angles no one else notices. You squeeze value out of moments others would overlook. That's the difference between people who get lucky once and vanish, and those who turn one shot into a lifetime of wins. Luck gets you in the door, but preparation keeps you inside. Without it, the door becomes a revolving one. You're in, then you're out, wondering what went wrong. And most of the time, nothing went wrong. You just didn't have the foundation to hold what you were given. Think about it. How many times have you heard about someone who had it all, then lost it faster than they got it? The athlete who made millions and ended up broke. The business owner who struck gold and burned through it in a year. The artist who blew up overnight and disappeared by next season. It's not that they weren't talented. It's that they were running on luck without the machinery to sustain it. They treated the jackpot like the finish line, when it was actually the starting point. Preparation means you've already been living as if the opportunity is coming. You've trained your skills until they're reflex. You've built habits that keep you sharp, systems that keep you grounded. So when the chaos of success hits, and it will be chaos, you can handle it without falling apart. Because here's the thing most people don't understand. Success isn't calm. It's fast, It's loud. It's demanding. If you're not ready for that pace, you'll drown in it. People imagine winning feels like a celebration, but really, it feels like pressure, responsibility, eyes watching your every move. That's the part luck doesn't prepare you for. Without preparation, even small wins can overwhelm you. You hesitate. You second guess. You spend more time trying to figure things out than actually doing them. And while you're fumbling, someone else, someone ready, takes what could have been yours. This is why preparation is more important than the jackpot itself. Because the jackpot is just an event. Preparation is a process. The event might happen once in your life. The process is something you control every day, and preparation isn't just technical. It's mental. You've got to be able to handle the weight of opportunity without letting it crush you. You've got to be ready for people's opinions, the jealousy, the pressure to perform, the fear of losing it. Without mental preparation, you'll sabotage yourself the moment things get real. You'll doubt whether you deserve it. You'll overthink every move until you paralyze yourself. Opportunity doesn't care about your insecurities. It will expose them the moment it arrives. But when you've been preparing, really preparing, you walk into the moment different. You're not asking, "What do I do now?" You're already moving. You're not waiting for instructions. You're writing them. You're not just reacting. You're controlling the pace. That's the power of being ready. The jackpot doesn't intimidate you, because in your head, you've already been here 100 times. You've practiced the moves, built the muscle, hardened the mindset. So when luck finally knocks, you don't treat it like some fragile miracle. You treat it like the inevitable result of the work you've been doing all along. And that's why the jackpot isn't just about winning. It's about keeping. Anybody can stumble into a big break, but only the prepared can turn it into something that lasts, something that grows. Because without preparation, luck will pass through your hands like water, leaving you with nothing but a story about the time you almost had it. Almost people think losing is about failure, about making the wrong move. But in reality, the biggest reason people lose is because they were never ready to win. They get exactly what they've been dreaming about, and it slips through their fingers like sand. Why? Because they don't know how to hold it. You hand someone something they never prepared for. And they'll destroy it without even trying. They'll make choices that bleed it dry. They'll trust the wrong people. They'll chase the wrong things. And in the end, they'll blame bad luck. When the truth is, they simply weren't able to carry what they caught. It's a funny thing how people assume they'll automatically be good at handling success. They say, if I had that, I'd never waste it. But having isn't the same as keeping. The jackpot doesn't come with a manual. It doesn't tell you which way to turn or how to spend your winnings. It just dumps the weight into your hands and watches what you do with it. And if your grip isn't strong, if your mind isn't disciplined, if your habits aren't sharp, it'll be gone before you even realize you had it. Not because it was stolen, but because you handed it away piece by piece without noticing. When you're not ready, opportunity feels heavier than it should. Every decision feels like a gamble. Every choice like a trap. You second guess yourself into paralysis. And in that hesitation, doors start closing. Not because someone's keeping you out, but because time doesn't wait. Opportunity doesn't wait. It's not patient. It's not forgiving. The moment you start fumbling, it starts fading, and by the time you realize it, you're standing there holding the scraps of what could have been the biggest turning point of your life. People who lose what they weren't ready for often try to get it back the same. Oh, you feel it, don't you? That itch beneath the surface, that twitch in the corner of your soul, like something's watching. No, not watching. Waiting. Like the air shifted, but nobody else noticed. Everyone else is busy scrolling, laughing, posing. But you're staring at the cracks. You're listening to the silence between the noise. Because something is happening. Something's been set in motion that doesn't care about your schedule, your deadlines, or your carefully written 5-year plan. It's moving, and it's not asking for your approval. Ah, chaos, the favorite scapegoat, the misunderstood masterpiece. You wake up and everything's upside down. Jobs gone, phone silent, doors that used to open now slam so hard the echo laughs at you. And what do? You panic. You think it's all falling apart. You think you've been abandoned, cursed, maybe forgotten. But what if I told you that the mess isn't a mistake? It's the blueprint. Yeah, that thing you're cursing, that storm you're shaking your fist at, it's not the enemy. It's the construction crew. Tearing down the version of your life you outgrew while pretending everything was fine. You don't change when things are soft and sweet. You change when your knees hit the floor. You evolve when you have no clue what's next. And all the pretty plans you made go up in smoke. You thought success would come with applause and comfort. You thought growth would be polite. You didn't realize it would rip the rug from under you, break the mirror and whisper, "Good, now let's begin." The chaos, it's custom built, measured just right. Not too much to destroy you, but just enough to dismantle your illusion of control. Funny how people want transformation without disruption, as if you can rearrange a building without making dust, as if you can become something new without first unlearning the old lies. You keep calling it bad luck, but the joke is the breakdown was the blessing. The collapse was the realignment. Every no that made you scream into the ceiling, that was the universe pushing the detour button while you were still gripping a map that no longer matched the terrain. You thought losing that relationship was a setback, thought getting fired was a curse, thought being alone again meant you were broken. But maybe, just maybe, that heartbreak was the wrecking ball that cleared the space. Maybe you weren't being punished, you were being cleared. Because you were still filling your world with things that couldn't survive the next level. You asked for breakthrough, but still wanted to keep your safety nets. It doesn't work like that. Sometimes the divine has to take what you won't willingly release. Sometimes it rips it from your hands just to show you how much you were settling. And oh, how you cling. You grip pain like a comfort blanket. You wear struggle like a badge of honor. You keep building rooms in houses that were always meant to be temporary. And when they start falling apart, you panic. Because you never thought the chaos could be the answer. You never thought the shaking might be surgical. But that's how it works. Precision demolition. Tear down what doesn't serve. Break open what's rotting. Let the dust choke you if it has to. Anything to wake you up from your beautiful little delusion. You want a miracle, but you don't want movement. You want answers, but you hate the questions. You want peace, but reject the war that makes it possible. Growth never announces itself politely. It kicks the door in, it makes a mess, and then it waits for you to stop screaming long enough to realize the chaos isn't the end. It's the invitation. That scream, that panic, that's just the echo of your ego losing power. The real you is underneath it all, grinning, waiting, breathing, deeper for the first time in years. You didn't lose control, you never had it. What you lost was the illusion of predictability, and now that it's gone, now that the curtain's ripped and the actors have forgotten their lines, maybe you'll stop pretending. Maybe you'll stop begging for calm and start listening to what the noise is trying to say. 'Cause nothing changes until something breaks. Nothing new is born until something old dies. And here you are, in the rubble, thinking it's over, when it's actually just the start of the scene. So the chaos isn't the villain, it's the signal, the proof that something bigger has already begun. Something too wild, too sacred, too real to be contained in your carefully rehearsed version of life. You wanted purpose? Well, this is how it shows up in disguise. Dressed like loss, painted in confusion, screaming in the voice of 1,000 why me's, while quietly setting the stage for a future you're still too scared to imagine. Stillness, silence, and you assume it means nothing's happening, that everything's paused, frozen, waiting on your next brilliant move. But what if I told you the loudest shifts happen in total silence? That the most divine earthquakes don't come with fanfare, just a gut feeling you keep brushing off. You've been trained to expect sound, proof, confirmation, likes, notifications, applause. You think if it's quiet, it must be dead. But death is noisy. Real growth, that's surgical, precise, and oh so quiet. Movements don't always roar. Sometimes they sneak up behind you, light a match, and wait for you to smell the smoke. You've mistaken the lack of noise for the lack of motion. But there's a war happening behind the scenes while you sit there doom-scrolling and doubting. You think the silence means he's not working, not watching, not moving. But that's because you don't understand how revolutions begin. They don't send invites. They don't knock politely. They unfold behind closed curtains while the world is distracted by shiny objects and hollow distraction. You think your life's on pause when it's really being rearranged with more care than you've ever dared to give yourself. Stillness terrifies people. They panic when nothing's happening, not realizing that nothing is a lie. Things are always happening. Underneath, within, the foundation is being rebuilt in total silence because you'd ruin it if you saw it too early. You'd interfere, sabotage, try to control it again. So instead, you're placed in the waiting room with no windows, no clocks, no escape plan. Why? Because if you could see how big it was, you'd run. If you could see how much had to shift to make space for what's coming, you'd beg to go back to small. You prayed for something real, something meaningful. You wanted purpose, fire, direction. You screamed for transformation, and then you got silence. Because silence is where the real answers hide. It's where all the noise dies, all the masks fall, and all your coping mechanisms go flat, and suddenly it's just you. You and the truth. You and the thing you've been dodging behind busy schedules and clever distractions. And now, in the quiet, it's closing in. The truth about who you are, what you've settled for, what you were meant to be building while you were too busy proving yourself to people who couldn't even see you. You keep thinking you're stuck when you're actually being held in place, so the divine machinery can realign everything without your ego getting in the way. You're being recoded in silence, rewired in the dark. Your instincts are sharpening, your soul's learning a new language, and you still think it's just a rut. Still calling it a delay, still begging for movement, while the ground under you is being laced with purpose, so dense it would crush you if it came all at once. So instead, it creeps, quietly, patiently, like a tide that knows exactly when to rise. The silence isn't absence, it's orchestration. The calm before the storm you didn't see coming because it doesn't look like a storm. It looks like a breakthrough wearing camouflage. You think nothing's happening while everything is changing. The story's being edited, the lines rewritten, the ending redrawn. You're not stuck. You're suspended between what you thought life was and what it's about to become. And the silence, that's the inhale before the scream. That's the pulse before the thunder. That's the signal that something has already been set in motion. But people panic in silence. They self-destruct. They call old flames. They accept cheap offers. They shrink back into old patterns because the silence makes them feel forgotten. But you weren't forgotten. You were hidden, protected, because what's being built in you couldn't afford an audience yet. The seeds had to grow in secret. Roots had to dig deep before the bloom because anything built too fast dies even faster. Anything built too fast dies even faster. But you are being built for weight, for war, for legacy. And that kind of build doesn't come with noise. It comes with silence, sharp enough to cut through your excuses. So next time it goes quiet, don't assume he left. Don't assume you're being punished. Don't assume the dream died. Real power doesn't need to shout. It just moves, slowly, intentionally. And if you sit still long enough, you'll feel it too. Not in your ears, not in your head, but in your bones. In that twitch behind your thoughts that says, something's off, but in the best possible way. Something's coming. It already started. It's just not loud enough for the world to hear yet. They always say timing is everything, but no one tells you how messy it looks when the timing finally shows up. You expect trumpets, right? A spotlight, a cosmic hand gently placing the puzzle piece you've been missing, finally, right where it belongs. But nah, that's not how it goes. It comes wrapped in confusion, dripping in irony, usually disguised as the thing you didn't want to deal with. That's the joke, see? You spend years preparing for the right moment, and when it comes, it's wearing a clown mask and asking if you're ready to dance. See, people think alignment feels like clarity, like everything clicks into place and suddenly you're levitating on some higher frequency. Wrong. Alignment feels like getting slapped awake in the middle of a dream you thought was real. It's messy. It's raw. It's losing things you thought you couldn't live without, only to find out you were never really living with them, just surviving next to them. You beg for the moment, pray for it, but when it arrives, it usually breaks something first, because it has to make room, and you never had space. Your life was filled with placeholders, illusions, performances, so the moment shows up and it's got a crowbar. Timing doesn't care about your comfort. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It doesn't knock. It kicks the door in. And what do? You freeze. Because suddenly all the things you said you wanted, all those visions you scribbled in journals are staring you in the face. But they don't look like what you imagined. They're louder, messier, harder, but real. And you're not sure if you're supposed to run or bow or laugh. So you do all three and then sit in the corner wondering if you made it all up. You didn't. But you thought the door would open gently, didn't you? You thought favor would come wearing a tux, not boots caked in mud. You thought the miracle would look clean. That's where the world got it twisted. Real timing doesn't care about presentation. It cares about alignment. It doesn't ask, are you comfortable? It asks, are you awake? And most of you aren't. Not really. You're sleepwalking, pretending, checking boxes. So when it shakes the ground, you call it disruption. When it takes the mask off your life, you call it betrayal. When it puts the real thing in front of you, you flinch, because now there's no more hiding behind not yet. Yet was your escape hatch, your excuse, your blanket. You used it to delay, to dodge, to survive. But now the timing's here, and not yet doesn't work anymore. You're being asked to show up as you are, not as who you pretend to be for their approval, not as the polished version that looks good in the mirror but collapses in the dark. The moment doesn't care about your costume. It's here to expose something deeper. And the question is, can you handle being seen? Not just by them, by you. Can you stand there while the mask falls, while the lights flicker, while your old life peels off like dead skin and not run? Because this is the part where most people tap out. They crawl back to their familiar cages. They dress up their old prisons with new wallpaper and call it progress. Because real timing doesn't offer you security. It offers you risk. And most people would rather sit in predictably miserable than risk beautifully unknown. But if you're quiet enough, if you stop thrashing long enough, you'll feel it, that pull, that stretch, that unbearable knowing in your bones that something massive just clicked into place. You won't be able to explain it, you'll just know. Like the air shifted, like the world tilted in your favor while pretending not to notice. And you'll want to act like nothing's happening, just to keep it safe. But it's too late for that now. You've been marked, touched, rewritten, and nothing ordinary will ever feel safe again. So now you're standing on the edge of the moment you asked for, trembling like a kid at the top of a roller coaster, wondering if it's too late to get off, but it's moving. It's already in motion, and the timing doesn't care if you're scared. It just asks if you're willing. Because what's ahead isn't just bigger than you thought. It's wilder, sharper, more alive, and it's been waiting on you longer than you've been waiting on it. Funny how people think divine messages come with glowing lights and angel choirs, like heaven's got a marketing department and a script. No, that's not how the good stuff shows up. Not the stuff that changes you, not the real transmissions. The real ones? They slip in sideways, wearing ragged clothes, arriving through a whisper when you're neck deep in chaos and just about ready to snap. They don't knock. They don't ask. They hit you when you're broken enough to finally hear them. See, the thing that's been trying to reach you, it's not polite. It's relentless. It's been circling you like a vulture, waiting for the moment you're too tired to argue with your own destiny. Because you're stubborn, aren't you? You've been busy trying to fix things that were never supposed to last, building houses out of people, treating temporary situations like permanent altars, and now everything you built is shaking, and you still don't get it. You still think it's bad luck or poor timing or someone else's fault. But it's none of that. It's the message, the one that's been screaming at you behind your polite distractions. You keep waiting for confirmation. You want a sign so big it can't be denied, but when it shows up in a form you didn't like betrayal, like disappointment, like the job loss, the breakup, the silence, you call it a problem instead of a prophecy. You don't realize the divine doesn't always come dressed in comfort. Sometimes it shows up wrapped in pain. Because pain gets your attention. Pain makes you honest. Pain strips you bare. And that's when it delivers the message. You can't keep living like this. You're trying to make small talk while the universe is yelling. You're scrolling your way into numbness while your soul is begging for something real. You're pretending you're fine while your heart is howling in a language only God understands. And He's been waiting, not because He's slow, but because you were too fast, racing toward things you didn't need, begging for people who don't see you, making noise instead of making space. So He waited. Patient, unshaken. Now you're quiet enough to feel it. So the thing is, you were never really abandoned. You were just busy. Busy defending a version of yourself that was built on survival, not truth. Busy chasing validation from people who couldn't recognize your worth, even if it was tattooed on your forehead. Busy building ladders to places you were never supposed to climb. And while you were doing all that, the message sat there, waiting, watching, knowing you'd eventually run out of distraction, that the noise would get boring, that the show would end, and when it did, boom, there it is, the still, sharp sound of something real finally breaking through. You think this is about religion, about rules, about being perfect? Nah, this is about recognition. It's about that moment when something inside you goes quiet. Not because it's giving up, but because it's finally heard something louder than your fear. And it's not coming from the outside. It's coming from the wreckage, from the ashes, from the very place you thought you'd never rise from. That's the punchline, isn't it? You thought the pain was punishment, but it was preparation. You thought the silence was abandonment, but it was alignment. You thought the end was the end, but it was the setup. And now you can feel it. That shift, that pressure, that heat in your chest that won't let you sleep. The message is burning through everything you thought you knew. You can't ignore it anymore. Can't unhear it, can't unfeel it. It's not asking politely, it's demanding. It's not suggesting, it's pulling you by the collar and dragging you into the mirror, forcing you to look at what you've become and what you were always meant to be underneath the lies. You're not confused, you're scared. There's a difference. Because deep down, you know exactly what this is. You know what you have to let go of. You know what needs to die for you to live. You just hoped the message would be softer, that transformation would come with a lullaby. But no, this one came with thunder, with fire, with a truth so heavy it bends your spine. And now it's staring at you. Waiting, not for you to be perfect, not for you to have it all figured out, just for you to stop pretending you don't hear it. You ever notice how people say they want the truth until the truth walks in with blood on its shoes? They ask for clarity like it's going to be gentle, soft, like a lullaby rocking them to sleep. But real clarity? Oh no, it shatters glass, flips tables, drags every skeleton out of your closet and dances with them in the hallway. It's loud, it's ugly, it's everything you were trying not to see, wrapped in a spotlight you can't escape. And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? The truth doesn't care if you're ready. It's not waiting for your permission. It just shows up, laughing while you scramble to hide the mess you never cleaned up. Now here's the funny part, deep down, you already knew, you always knew. That job you stayed in too long, you knew it was killing you. That person you kept begging to love you right, you knew they never would. But you played dumb, played house, built shrines to comfort and called it wisdom. You wrapped red flags in fairy lights and called it destiny because pretending felt safer than breaking. But safe doesn't grow you. Safe doesn't save you, it just delays the fall. And when the fall finally comes, oh, it doesn't knock, it kicks the door in. So here you are, looking around the rubble, wondering why it all came down. But the collapse, that wasn't the betrayal. The real betrayal was how long you ignored yourself. How long you silenced the voice that kept whispering, "This isn't it." You thought that voice was doubt, thought it was fear, but that was the truth, wearing its scariest mask just to see if you were brave enough to listen. See, the truth doesn't whisper forever. At some point it screams, and when it does, everything changes. Not because it wants to hurt you, not because it enjoys watching you squirm, but because sometimes the only way out is through fire. And you're fireproof. You just forgot. So now life is reminding you, in ways that feel cruel, chaotic, unfair, but really, it's choreography. You're being moved, honored, pushed, placed, perfectly positioned in the wreckage to find something you couldn't see when the lights were on. They told you pain was the enemy, but they lied. Pain is a compass. Pain points to the parts of you that are still alive. You want to avoid pain, then you'll avoid purpose. You'll stay numb, stay small, stay invisible. And the message meant for you, the one that's been circling your soul like a hawk, it'll pass you by. 'Cause it doesn't land on numb people. It doesn't visit the ones who buried themselves in fine. It waits for the brave, for the broken, for the ones bleeding truth all over the floor, still somehow asking for more. You asked for a sign, didn't you? You begged for proof, for something real. Well, congratulations, this is it, the unraveling. The peeling away, the storm with your name carved into every lightning bolt. This isn't punishment, it's precision. You don't dig gold out of the earth without a little violence. You don't become who you were meant to be without bleeding a little for it. And you've been bleeding silently for years. Now it's time to bleed with purpose. But here's the part that stings. No one's coming to do it for you. No miracle delivery, no emotional rescue squad. This is you, facing the truth you've been dodging in every mirror, every quiet moment, every breath. You don't need more time. You don't need another sign. You need to look at the ashes and admit that you lit the match. Not because you're bad, but because some part of you finally got tired of pretending the lie was home. So now what? Do you pick up the pieces and build the same thing again? Or do you let the message sink in? Do you finally admit that everything breaking was the answer, not the problem? That the storm wasn't a detour, it was the map? That all those silent screams, all those gut feelings, all that tension in your chest, that was truth. That was God. That was the divine message dressed in disaster. Laughing through your tears, clapping from the shadows because you finally saw it. You finally stopped running. You finally shut up long enough to hear what's been pounding at your ribcage for years, begging for you to let it speak without interruption. You've been corrupted. I beg you with all due voice. That little whisper you keep calling a hunch, a gut feeling, a weird thought that won't shut up. It doesn't scream. It doesn't bang on doors or set off alarms. At least not at first. No, it's clever. It creeps. It hums quietly, just under the noise of your routine, your distractions, your excuses. You brush it off like lint, but it lingers. Every time you almost sleep, every time you almost smile, it shows up, dressed in silence, waiting for you to get honest. And the joke? It's been talking longer than you've been listening. See, you give credit to coincidence. You praise your intuition. You pat yourself on the back like you're just naturally sharp. But that voice, that quiet nudge, it wasn't you being clever. It was something bigger, older, dragging you by the soul while you pretended it was all just timing. Funny how people want divine intervention in a lightning bolt. But when the sky's calm and the pull is subtle, they think it's just anxiety or coffee talking. You pace around your own mind like it's a prison. Thinking, overthinking, waiting for some external sign, some flashing billboard that says, now's the time. But the sign already came. It came wrapped in a sleepless night. It came hidden in that weird feeling after a conversation that didn't sit right. It showed up when you smiled and felt empty right after. You're looking for the miraculous while ignoring the obvious. That voice, that itch under your skin, that was the message. And you've been dodging it like it's the IRS. Isn't it wild? You'll trust Google Maps over your gut. You'll follow strangers on the internet and call it motivation. But when that still, deep, quiet knowing shows up, you question it. You run from it, because if it's right, that means everything else is wrong. And you don't want to start over. You don't want to admit you climbed the wrong ladder. You'd rather paint the cage than break the law. You were never confused. You were conditioned to ignore yourself, trained to fit in, stay polite, follow the program. So when something sacred tries to interrupt your regularly scheduled misery, you mute it. You call it inconvenient, inappropriate. You drown it in noise. Scrolling, swiping, binge-watching, purpose evaporate while pretending you're just relaxing. But it's not rest, it's running. You're not tired, you're avoiding, 'cause you know. You already know. You've always known. That voice is not passive, it's patient. It will let you pretend. It will let you spiral. It will let you lie through your teeth to yourself until one day it won't. One day it becomes a scream. One day the job becomes unbearable. The relationship suffocates. The silence gets louder than the music. And you either listen or break, not because it hates you, but because it loves you enough to haunt you until you change. And people will call you crazy, dramatic, impulsive. You had such a good thing going, they'll say, because they didn't hear the voice. They didn't feel it pulling you from the inside out. They only see what you're leaving. They don't know what you're walking toward. They weren't in the room when the mask stopped fitting, when the applause stopped working, when you realized success without peace is just performance in a nicer cage. So now you've got a choice. Pretend you're still figuring it out, or admit the truth's been stalking you for years. And that voice, it's not asking for your attention anymore. It's demanding obedience. Not in a creepy, kneel down way, in a save yourself before you rot kind of way, in a this version of you has expired kind of way, in a stop gaslighting your own soul kind of way. But hey, no pressure. You can always ignore it a little longer, until it becomes the very thing you can't live with, or the only thing you can't live without. Oh, you ever notice how the biggest shifts in your life never ask for permission? They don't knock politely or wait until you're ready. No, they barge in wearing muddy boots, flipping tables and laughing while you scramble to keep your pretty little world from collapsing. You try to reason with it, try to keep your schedule, your structure, your precious little calendar untouched. But life doesn't care about your plans. It's not interested in your bullet points or backup files. When it's time, and it'll make sure you hear it loud and clear